many of us think of the world of Pokemon as the most magical, awesome place ever. It's got magical creatures that can control the elements, move things with their mind, shoot out rays of light, breathe fire, zap electricity. And what does the real world have? Well, none of that. It's pretty boring compared to it, right? Well, no, far from it. We have electric eels, immortal jellyfish, hot acid-spraying beetles, and frogs that can freeze their own blood? Yeah, the list goes on, but honestly the reason why Pokemon are so awesome is, well, because they take inspiration from real life. And sure, our world might not be as interesting or as cool as the Pokemon world, but come on, it's not boring. And the cause for all of this awesomeness is evolution, natural selection, biology, all of that cool stuff. Animals evolving and gaining new traits as they are exposed to the natural world, and natural selection. And if you're exposed to that, you got two options: adapt or die. And all those awesome features that I've talked about, well, they all have a function. They're there to aid the animal's survival. Sure, a beetle spraying hot liquid from its butt may seem weird to us, but it's necessary for defense. And frogs freezing their own blood, well, it's necessary so they can survive the cold temperatures. So what if you grabbed all that information you knew about nature, biology, evolution, and grabbed an animal that's either extinct or alive, doesn't really matter, and you let it walk on a hypothetical path in which the end result would be a Pokemon, or at least as closely as real life could allow. And that is what this series is all about, making Pokemon in real life. Today's episode is going to be all about making Pikachu, the mascot of Pokemon, in real life, so the Raichu line. Oh, and thus far I've done 6 episodes as well, which include the original 3 Kanto starters. So go check those out if you want for this one, but let's dive in. When looking at these Pokemon, the first thing you can probably imagine are animals like mice, jerboas, rats, squirrels, rodents, fuzzy cute rodents. And that's exactly the group I'll be working with. Kind of. So rodents evolved and first became a thing during the late Pleistocene, 59.2 to 75 million years ago. That's not just far enough back yet though. So I'll have to go with the greater group called something I'm not going to try to pronounce, which includes rodents, but also primates, colugos, tree shrews, and lagomorphs. This group is 85, possibly 95 million years old, which gives us a bit more time, this group having been established in the late Cretaceous. But why does the time matter? Well, let me tell you all something about the wonders
of mass extinction.
66 million years ago, an asteroid struck the Earth, killing 75% of all living animal species on Earth, including the non-avian dinosaurs, pterosaurs, oh, I'll miss you, pterosaurs, wish I could see them, and just a lot of other animal species that are also really cool and would have been cool to see them, you know, but oh well. This is commonly referred to as the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, if you want to say it real fancy. Personally, I just like to say Big Rock. And guess what? It's not the worst extinction event. But why is this good, you may ask? Well, diversity. If a lot of things die, a lot of things will take its place. History repeats itself, and you constantly see niches being occupied by just completely different animals. Like, look at sauropods, giraffes, elephants, you know, big herbivores, but they all look completely different, and that's what our little group of animals will do too. Nothing too specific, it'll just be something that's resembling a rodent, or be a rodent, something like that. Okay, so what are the most key features of a Raichu? Because those are important and we're going to have to copy those into real life. Number 1, the yellow fur. Now, bright colors aren't that common in mammals because of our ancestry. You see, when the dinosaurs were ruling, we were mostly nocturnal, so we didn't have to rely that much on our eyesight. So others of our species tended to be dull colored, and that pretty much continued up until today. In comparison to the colors of birds, insects, and others, yeah, we're pretty boring, but that boringness helped us survive. There's still bright mammals though, like foxes and squirrels, which are mainly that color to help them camouflage in the autumny European forests. Of course, you also have male mandrills, who look like that to impress females. But for once, those actually aren't that important when it comes to these Pokemon, you know, sexual display and all. The climate of the Paleogene right after the Cretaceous was pretty tropical, so lots of wet, humid forest-like areas would have been pretty abundant during that time. So a rodent-like animal looking some type of bright brown, yellowy orange, that's not unrealistic at all, especially right now. Next up is their tails. Those thunder shapes aren't exactly natural, but these can be used as a form of communication. and they'd be able to adjust the shape of this shape to communicate whether a predator is close, if they found food, and all of that. This is not uncommon at all in mammals. If you have cats or dogs, you probably notice that they communicate with their tails. And rodents like squirrels, for example, they twitch their tails to let others know that there's danger nearby. We also need a reason for those cute cheeks. I mean, yeah, they're really cute and all, but what biological function would they have? There is the possibility of communication, again, like if an animal has a full cheek of food, the blood flow creates a reddish glow around the cheek, but the tail already serves for pretty good communication. Now, I thought of this as being a male-only thing so they can fancy females, but like I said, I've done that so many times already. But then I remembered cats. So you know how like cats they like to rub on things? Well, that's to mark their scent, their territory, to make you smell like them. You see, cats have an organ that allow them to smell way better than us. They can even taste smells. And scent is very important in cats, their biology. Useful in hunting, reproduction, knowing if there's someone nearby like another cat. And that is why cats might sometimes look at you weirdly when you just pet another cat, because they can smell that stuff on your hand. In a wet forest, sometimes it's hard to find your way. So having a scent that you spread that only your species can smell, that is very helpful. Having such an organ on a species already social, well, it makes sense. It would make their cheeks look fuller and much cuter, giving them that necessary glow in order to look like the Pokemon. Lastly, there's the electricity. And bad news, electricity, like how you see in the anime and the games on land, that's not really gonna work. Look, shooting electricity is very cool, but not that realistic. Sure, you might just say, oh, but we have electric eels who can zap their prey and such, and true, but that's in the water. Water is an extremely good conductor for zapping things. Dry air? Not so much, but luckily this animal is in a wet forest. And we do know of mammals that have electroreception that live on land. Monotremes. The echidna, for instance, has electroreceptors it uses to hunt for prey. That's right, Knuckles is an electric type. So these animals would have electroreceptors located in their snouts, varying on the species, and they would use that to hunt for small prey that's buried in the wet soil. The long-beaked echidnas have about 2,000, and the short-beaked ones have around 400. And that is what these animals will also have, but a little bit more extreme. So it can actually produce a shock when it's in contact with prey that it can find either in the water or the wet ground. But if this sounds a little bit too extreme, a little bit too speculative, then it can just easily work without the straight up electricity. Like it can just sense the prey in those places. But either way, it'll just hunt near the same places, you know, water and wet ground. With all the key features out of the way, we just need to, well, get there. So right after the big rock hits the earth, stuff is gonna slow down for a while. But then, a group of small mammals, which resemble rodents in a superficial way, well, they're doing just, well, they're not thriving, but they're surviving. Due to their size, they don't need that much food to sustain themselves. But eventually, tropical wet forests do start to emerge as the planet is beginning to stabilize a little bit. And what this little rodent buddy will do is that it'll just become an insectivore. That'll be that at first. Then eventually evolve to be much more efficient at it, searching for even more prey in places that most animals like it wouldn't, like in the water and wet soil, using electroreception. They also grew in size so they can hunt even more and bigger prey, and become much more social due to the now increasing competition as the planet is stabilizing more and more. As a result, these animals have developed their own sort of language by using their elongated tails and their own unique scent patterns that are all over the forest, eventually leading to the species living in small groups and fighting others over its kind over territory. And yeah, that's actually it. Okay, didn't think that this would be this short, but yeah, we're already here. Wow, okay, so it's in the wet forest. Yeah, that's it, that's done. Okay, so we just need we need a name for these cute little cuties. I got it, Electromaxilla, which just means electric cheek, because, you know, I got the electric cheeks. Alright, cool, let's go on to ecology next. So now that we've created these animals, what do? Well, simple, they just eat, they hunt, they escape predators, and they mate, and they socialize. Pretty simple. Because of their small groups, when they do meet another group, things get nasty pretty quick, and they fight over territory. But before they actually do that, they send warning signals all around. You know, they get their little cheeks and they push them next. You know, like how your cat, like, it, like, rubs off on you? That's kind of what they do. But in a not catty way, and they just do it on the trees and everywhere. So it's like kind of a warning signal, like, hey, don't mess with my territory. So, you know, the group can leave, or they can fight. It's up to them. When they do fight, though, things get really interesting, because they can use their tails to communicate from long distances, and they all have their unique smell, which are given to them by their leaders. So they always know who's who. Yeah, they'll have a leader who will pretty much douse them all on their scent, which will be an old female, so Grandma Raichu pretty much. If this doesn't happen regularly, the scent will be lost and they'll be considered rogue, and can join other groups or just go back to their old one. Though it won't be that easy, they'll have to gain the trust of the group first. These groups are mainly made up of female family members, but males from the outside can join as well. But if a male is born inside of this group, it'll leave when it's sexually mature and join new groups. The babies will sort of resemble the adults. I mean, hey, Pichu doesn't look that different from Raichu, so that's not too hard to replicate. So here is Pichu. As you can see, it's just a cute little babby, really. It's, yeah, and then eventually it'll grow up into a sub-adult, which will be Pikachu. And then when it's fully grown, it's a Raichu. And the oldest Raichus will act as sort of a grandmother for the group. You know, like how killer whales, their grandmothers, they take care of the babies that their offspring have, so they're a little grandma taking care of the grandchildren. Really cute. So that's what they do. You know, Orca's got that whole matriarchy thing going on where only males leave and females stay, and the group has the oldest female teaching everyone the ropes. You know, so it's like that. Except with Orca males, they do sometimes get back to their mothers, but here that's not the case. Only outsiders join. And when they do, it's not that hard to start mating. There's not really any fighting involved, but the males do have to gain the trust of the females, but they do that when they join the group anyway. They're awake during the day and eat small things, like fish, bugs, and all of that. And because of their sensory abilities, they have a somewhat easier time doing that than other animals in the forest. And because they're in the mud a lot, searching for critters, their paws get dirty, and there you go, that's Raichu's brown paws explained. They are prey to other animals though. They're not super big, they're only around 1 meter in height when standing up, including those in the water if they get unlucky. They can swim alright, but not too fast, so if something that's much faster wants to chomp them up in the water, they're gone pretty much. Finally, how they mate isn't really too special. There's no fancy mating dance involved for once. You know, there's no weird sexual selection or sexual feature that they have somewhere. It's just, yeah, since the groups are mostly comprised of females, if the male just happens to join and, well, then the love gets distributed evenly, if you know what I mean. Now, will these animals live in a different timeline, or join the other ones I've created thus far in another timeline? Well, I actually think that the alpha timeline, yes, the very first one that I made, will actually fit pretty perfectly with these Pokemon. So they'll be joining the 3 original Kanto starters. That's really cool actually, because like they don't really, like, their existence doesn't affect the others' existence. So yeah, wow, that's really cool. So the 4 OG Kanto starters are all in the same timeline. That's really cool. That's neat. But now the question remains, will they survive until the modern day, these animals? I don't know. Like, people ask me what I think, but like honestly, I just make the animals and that's it. My job is done. The rest is up to you. So that's the Raichu line. Hopefully y'all dig these little pseudo rodents, you know. I think they're really cute. I think they came out really well. I like all of their stuff, and yeah, honestly, I thought that this was going to take a really long time, again, because of the electricity, but nope. And for once, I actually went with an animal that most of y'all probably expected. No, like, weird, like, I was honestly kind of thinking, like, oh, maybe I should go for monotremes, because, you know, echidnas have that electricity, and platypuses too, they have the electroreceptors. But then I was like, no, let's just go for the obvious one, because I just go with what works best. If I go for an animal that's really out of reach, and just really, like, people might assume, like, oh, Prima, why'd you go with that animal when the other one's so obvious? It's because, well, it just makes the most sense in my head. But yeah, now, I can hear you all saying, Prima, which Pokemon line are you going to do next? Well, again, that's up to you all to decide. So, you know, just comment which Pokemon line you'd like to see in the comment section down below. But real quickly, some advice. If you do not see your favorite Pokemon line in the comment section down below, but you do see your, like, second or third favorite Pokemon line down there, I would suggest just, like, double upping on that and commenting that as well, because the 3 most voted comments are going to get used. So, you know, it makes it that Pokemon has more chance to get, you know, onto the Patreon. And then, you know, from there I'm going to add 2 lines myself, which I would love to do. And yeah, Patreon's $1 a month, so if you want to go sign up for that, influence this series more, you can do that and vote over there, link in the description as always. And in case you're hungry for more Spec Evo, I got some more right here. I never know which way I'm supposed to point, but it's somewhere. It's somewhere there, the card. And of course, let me know which animals you would have used, and just comment down below, algorithm, we all know this stuff by now. But of course, before I go, I want to give out a massive thank you to my assistant professor and lecturer patrons, Ty Burns, Michael Piccirilli, DeltaMajora, and Gwen Joy. As always, y'all are the best, and thank you so much for the support. And with that being said, I hope y'all have a good day, night, or morning. As always, take care.